You're watching Nation 1 TV News Hour, and my name is Uzaglo Elizabeth. The Center for Local Governance Advocacy, CLGA, with support from the European Union, has launched the 2025 edition of the Public Financial Management Compliance League Table, PFMCLT, for Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies, MMDAs in Ghana.
For the overall development of their areas of jurisdiction. So if we have Aguna Street Municipal Assembly, that assembly is responsible for the overall development of that area of jurisdiction. That's point number one. And by overall development, I'm talking about provision of social services. I'm talking about local economic development to stimulate business development, SMEs at that level, and that will generate employment and create revenue, and from which they can also get their IGFs. That's point number one. Point number two, MMDAs, they are the executing platforms for government decentralization implementation, policy and agenda. So this government, for example, have decided that more of the resources from the center through the DACF will go to the assemblies. And some are getting as much as 20 million annually. Some before will get low. So the MMDA level is where we can execute the agenda of any government. Please, are you with me? And so this PFM thing is about interrogating the management and use of public funds that move from the center to the MMDA level. You see, Tom Peters in his book, In Search of Excellence, states many things. Says, you must first understand to be understood. So as you gather here, if any of you do not understand the issue thoroughly, then your reportage will also have challenges. So any human being, you must first understand to be understood. To empower the media who disseminate information in a way that the citizenry, you and I, who are the end beneficiaries of policy, need to know. And so after presenting the findings of the Public Financial Management Compliance League Table for the 261 Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies, essentially on the use and management of public resources that go to them. It is you that must be able to disseminate. And like I said, let's avoid partisanship. Let's make sure we understand so that we could be understood. And like I did indicate, they use 6 pillars: development planning, composite budgeting, procurement and contract management, accounting and reporting, internal audit and external audit. Generally, I said from 2023 when it started, the number of assemblies that are scoring above the set average this year, last year it was 50%, has increased 153 out of the 261 assemblies. What we need to be cautious about is the gap between internal auditors and the external auditors, which the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament use. So these are supposed to be reports that auditors have done their work from the audit service. So the gap there, we need to find out why. Two, we also need to find out the consistency of the performance of the assemblies. Some are first in 2024 and they are 90 in 2025. Some are 20. We need to get consistent performance, and so that we can use these well-doing assemblies as models for other not doing well to learn from. And that is what we've tried to do this morning. My expectation is like yours, that we want to see our assemblies at development platforms in our governance structure that will provide, as their law says, overall development of the areas of the jurisdiction, i.e. provision of social services, local economic development that can stimulate businesses at the level and generate employment for our teeming unemployed youth, security arrangements, so that we have the effective security of our citizenry. So these are the things they should do there. But how much, and they are supposed, according to the law, to do town halls and present their performance, which is hardly done. But unless and until the citizenry of our people are in, like it does with other countries in the Western world, I think we'll be a little slow in moving towards our development. I think I want the press in this country to remember they are the fourth estate. And whatever thing we are doing, non-partisanship, professionalism, any subject matter, let's learn to understand so that we can be understood.
The findings of the PFM Compliance League Table is also part of the reason why we've gathered here this morning. Now, the PFM cycle has 5 areas. The first one being planning. We have budgeting, procurement and contracting, accounting and reporting, and then internal and external auditing. Yes, for just a brief comments on these areas. For our understanding, planning is where most of the planning officers go to the district assemblies or they engage with the citizens to gather their needs, what they want as a community or a district. And then that's what's translated into their medium-term development plans, which are for 4 years. And then out of the 4-year medium-term development plans, they draw out their annual action plans for each year. Hence, when we get to where we have the indicators, you see that we are trying to find out whether their action plans were linked to their medium-term development plans. Now that you've agreed on your needs as a community or a district, now you've developed your annual action plan, there's a need for you to cost the items. For instance, Community A wants a hospital. We need to cost it or have an amount or an idea of how much the hospital will cost. That's when the budgeting comes in. But it's composite budgets at the district level because they take the information from all the various departments and then the units. And then procurement and contracting comes in. Now you know how much it will cost. You have to procure the services of contractors. You have to procure some equipment and other items. That's when procurement and contracting comes in. So the processes that you use to procure and then award contracts are all checked under this. After procuring these items, there's a need for you to account for the use of the funds and then report on it. That's when the accounting and then the reporting aspects also come in. When you are done, we have internal auditors in the MMDAs who go through all the documents and then establish any risks that they foresee and then draw attention of management to the issues. And so they have their recommendations that the district assemblies are supposed to implement. The internal audit report does not go out. It sits with management at the district level before the external auditors come in. That's the Ghana Audit Service to do their external audits, and then we have the external audit reports. So this is how the cycle in summary is. Madam earlier mentioned the methodology that it didn't change. Yes, the approach, indicator development, consolidated into assessment to revalidate it, and then train the data collectors to go collect the data. We do analysis, inputting, validation, we clean the data, we produce the report and then launch it, and then we do the publication of it also. Now we are undertaking national dissemination exercise. That's why we are gathered here today. We engage with Parliament, local government service, and other key stakeholders as part of the approach. And then we develop a policy paper and then commence with the next cycle of the assessment. Now, just quickly run through the indicators that we used for scoring the various MMDAs. Development planning had 12 marks. And then the indicators that we used were the linkage between their medium-term development plans. I mentioned earlier that it's a 4-year document. And then the annual action plans of the various district assemblies. Our reference here was 2025. And the timely submission of the annual action plans to the Regional Coordinating Council and then the National Development Planning Commission. And the approval of annual action plan by the General Assembly. Number of activities implemented from the annual action plan was also checked. And then mid-year review on the annual action plan, whether the Assembly did a quarterly progress report and then also submitted their annual progress report. These are parts of the indicators that were assessed under development planning, including, most importantly, consultation with key stakeholders in the preparation of the annual action plan. In the performance of our MMDAs. However, the performances varies. Some were at a rapid improvement, and others it was just a slow improvement that they had. But on the whole, all regions performed relatively well. And then the national average for 2025 stood at 56.20%. For the observations that we saw from this 2025 assessment, I think it varies along the PFM cycle. For development planning, for instance, there were inadequate implementation of planned activities in the annual action plan for the MMDAs, and then also limited stakeholder engagement in the plan preparation. That one also goes with the composite budgeting, limited stakeholder consultation or engagement in the preparation of their composite budgets. They are supposed to engage key stakeholders within their various district assemblies in the plan preparation and then the budget preparation. However, documents or evidential documents that we requested from the MMDAs didn't come through as we expected. It means two things: either there was inadequate record keeping, or they didn't do the stakeholder consultations at all. When you look at procurement issues, the use of the GANEPS platform is now a compliant issue. They are supposed to use the GANEPS platform. Last year in the 2024 assessment, they cited a lack of training for the procurement officers within our district assemblies. That's how come they were unable to use the GANEPS platform, and also internet challenges. I'm aware that PPA has been doing some regional and zonal training for the procurement officers. I was expecting that most district assemblies will be using the GANEPS platform by now. However, still we saw that most of them were not using the GANEPS platform. Again, they are supposed to submit their procurement plans to PPA. We saw from evidence that we gathered that some submitted the procurement plans late, others didn't submit at all. PPA has their bulletin that they've been publishing the names of institutions that submitted their plans to them, and also was published on their website. These are issues that came up from planning, budget, and then procurement. For accounting and reporting, when you look at the accounting office, they are supposed to have segregation of duties. What the finance officer does should be different from what the payment officers done, the bank reconciliation officers, and then the rest. We ought to know that there are segregation of duties. I can't be the one who writes a memo, the one who signs the check, the one who signs the PVs or other things. There should be other officers. It brings about checks and then balances. These are some of the evidence that we gathered there. And then internal audit, limited number of implementation of internal audit recommendations. This one links directly to the external audit. If you fail to implement the recommendations that internal auditors have identified,
or prefer to the various MMDAs, you'll be found out during the external audit assessment. That also come this year, realized that most of the district assembly that were in the top 10 dropped out of the top 10 positions because they were all cited in the Auditor General's report for series of infractions and then irregularities. That is captured in the Auditor General's report for 2025. We are encouraging them as we give them their various individual district reports to go through, identify their weaknesses and then their gaps, and then the capacity building that will be given to the low performing MMDAs. They should make sure that they take it in good faith. There are so many guidelines that the NDPC, Controlling Accountant General's Department, Ministry of Finance has given to the various MMDAs. They should make sure that they follow these compliance objectives and then ensure that they keep proper records of their activities. As next year will commence the next cycle of the assessment, and we encourage them to also do well to improve upon their scores and their performance, because it has adverse effect on us the citizen. Recently we've heard about the flooding issues and other things. This one has proper linkage to all those issues, and the lack of social amenities and then the rest. The compliance that they miss and then they do not do have consequences, and so we encourage them to do the proper and the needful.
Thank you for watching Nation One TV. Kindly subscribe for more news updates.